here describes my whole life. This is the famous yin and yang symbol from Chinese culture. If you observe closely, you see that in the white part, there's a black dot, and inside the black part, there's a white dot. And the white is usually associated with life, things that you understand. And inside life, you can find death. And inside death, you can find life. And I like to view this as the harmony between order and chaos. Order is anything and everything you understand, you believe, you want to achieve. And chaos is exactly the opposite. You do not understand chaos. You run away from it. You never want to see it ever again in your life. And this image describes my life perfectly well. All the things I've done, anything I've experienced. And I would like to show you how by starting with my first favorite sport, basketball. So I was introduced to this game at a very tender age. I was very small, I was 8 years old, and I was in the 3rd grade. And I was introduced to this game by first being bored. I was actually bored of a game I was playing earlier, which was American football. And I wanted to try something new. So my friend, he decided to yank me over to basketball. And I decided, why not try basketball? Because I haven't played anything for a long time. I haven't learned something new. So I stepped my foot inside of basketball. I didn't know a single thing. And when I put my foot on the court, I was disrespecting every single rule of this game. I was running around. I did not know who to pass to, where to go, who my own teammates were. I was making my own team lose game after game after game. And basketball has been the teaching experience, the learning experience for me, and anything I've learned from basketball does spill over into the rest of my life. So when I was on the court, I did not know anything. So because of that, I was thrown back out. The players in the game would not let me play. They told me, just stand outside and we'll have you as a substitute player. So I stood outside and I watched. I watched how the best guys play. I watched what they did. What did they do correctly? What did they do incorrectly? How could I improve my game, my individual experience? And back at home, I had a hoop similar to this. There was one parking lot, and inside that there was just one single basketball hoop. And back at home, after watching, I would go back and practice exactly what I saw. I would imitate the people who were playing well. I would try to do the things that they do. I would run around like them, hold the ball like them, move around like them. And over time, I actually began to understand the rules. I began to make myself fit in a narrow space. The narrow space was the only space you had in basketball because the rules are vast. It's like tightrope walking. You cannot fall. And I could now fit myself in that space after months and months of grueling practice. But I was only fitting myself in the space. I was not effective yet. I was not being passed the basketball. And the basketball in the game is such an element that helps you control everything. It helps you control your opponents, their movements, your movements, their decisions, your decisions, and the team's decisions. You can even control the time in the game. And I loved this power. I was craving for it. So back at home, I went back to the same hoop. But this time, I practiced with the ball. I practiced becoming efficient with the ball. I practiced becoming effective. And over many more months of doing this, I soon began to be considered one of the elite players in my group of friends. And because now I was one of the elite players, I would have to lead my team. So I would have to tell them where to go, when to shoot, how to shoot, fix their mistakes, fix my own mistakes, tell them when to pass, how to pass, but I could not do any of this. And that was because I did not have an inner voice. I could not tell them my opinion. And it was this thing, this very thing about teaching others and leading them, which made me realize that what my inner black spot actually was. What was this inner spot inside me? And this was the first time I faced it. So it was around this time in my life where I first experienced this black spot, when my parents wanted me to join a public speaking workshop. Now, I was the sort of person which could not speak in front of 4 teammates. What was I going to do speaking in front of hundreds of people? I really did not want to join the public speaking workshop. It wasn't for me. But I did still end up joining it. And that was because my friends were joining. And as a 5th grader, all you want is time to hang out with your friends. So I decided the worst thing that could happen to me was I learned something new. And the best thing is that I still get to hang out with my friends. So I joined the course, and I stepped my foot inside public speaking. This was the thing which scared me. I was running away from it. This very thing held me back in basketball. And at this course, which was over 4 months, we had to go to a recreational center every Monday, and for an hour and a half, the professor there would teach us how to stand and speak, how to dress well, even how to sit and speak. Anything I use to this day about public speaking, I've learned it from that class. And at the end of that class, end of the course, we had to give a speech to our parents. So we'd have to stand with a written speech in front of our parents and just read it. And when it was my turn to do exactly the same thing, I went up front and I was shivering. I couldn't speak. This was the second time I faced that inner fear. I haven't conquered it, I have just faced it. But the third time which I faced this fear is when I actually conquered this fear. And if you fast forward in my life to 9th grade, which was in this school, we had a Model United Nations conference that was coming up. And I did not want to join this because I knew debating wasn't anything I could do, speaking wasn't anything I could do. But my dad insisted I do because there's nothing I have to lose from this. At the end of the day, I will still learn something new. I will acquire a new skill. And over those 2 days of the Model United Nations, I lost every single bit of fear I had. I lost all of it. If the fears were as tall as me, if there was a paragraph as tall as me, I would have lost everything. This much over 2 days. And how did I do that? Well, I had to prepare a speech under 45 seconds, every 20 minutes, for 6 hours, and for 2 days straight. I had to face this fear again and again and again. And when you face something again and again, you start to understand it. I started to understand my fear. I started to accept it. I started to build confidence against public speaking. And over those 2 days, at the end of it, I lost all these fears which I had, and I actually started liking public speaking. And when you like something that you're afraid of, you know you have conquered that fear. And this is exactly what I was fascinated about. And because I was fascinated about this, I wanted to exercise this new skill. So I began anchoring in my online school assemblies first. Then that later translated to offline school assemblies. Then I went on to anchor for house assemblies, our school house assemblies. Then I went to anchor for bigger events in the school. And now, if you zoom out of everything that I've said, if you just zoom out and then observe, I've gone from basketball, a very fun thing, sporty thing, to public speaking, a very formal thing, something I was actually scared of. How did I do this? I actually wasn't planning, thinking, or designing any of these things out. I just went with the flow, like how a river would flow. I let myself be. I allowed myself to grow. The thing is, if you have a plan for the things you want to do, you're actually not letting yourself get out of it, get out of the plan and let yourself grow. And this is what I want you guys to take away from me today. And I have a good analogy about this. It was when I was in a field trip in 5th grade. It was for 5 days. And for 5 days, I had one camera. It was an old camera. It was a film camera which had 27 shots you could take, 27 pictures. And I did all the math in my head. I figured out I'm gonna take 5 pictures every single day, and I will burn through the whole camera by 5 days. And turns out that I actually hated that plan. I did not like it. I wasn't taking those pictures. Because at one moment, I would be standing trying to take pictures of some very nice plant, but then I would think to myself, and I would think that if I take this picture, I will not be able to save the slide for something even better. So I told my naturalist, who is a guide there, I told them about my problem. And what he told me was this. He told me that I shouldn't think about taking pictures. I should just click the picture. Don't think about it, just click it. And this is what I want you guys to take away. I think all of you 12th graders have figured out, I will go to this university next year. I will do exactly this, and I'll do exactly that. I will not meander off my path. But that is not the correct way of thinking, because you are confining yourself to one straight line. You're not letting yourself grow out of it. And if you go back at the symbol, you see that there's a line between white and black. This is a very special line. And if you think about life, you need to remember one thing. You don't plan life, you live life. And there's a very good saying which goes back to this symbol, and it says that your life is meant to be lived on the border between order and chaos. You cannot have both feet on one side. If you do, you always know where you're headed. You're not letting yourself fall off that path you created for yourself. If you do, you're letting your foot step inside chaos. You're introducing an element of uncertainty. And if you're scared to take this step, remember one thing. There's a good difference between sailors and explorers. A sailor is a person who knows where they will land after they leave at sea. But an explorer does not know this. All they know is that they will find something new. All they carry with themselves is a compass. You people in life are explorers, not sailors. You don't plan out where you're going to go. You explore life. So you need to remember that chaos is that element in your life that gives you a direction, but it never gives you your destination. And the destination that chaos brings you to is the best thing you will ever experience in your life. So lift that foot, move it over and step it inside of chaos. Start to embrace the idea of chaos. Start to understand it. Start to conquer it. And marry yourself to the idea of chaos. Thank you.